o'clock, so I think we should be starting your. Let me just check, huh? 1 minute. Dr. Sharma, should we start?
Yes, I think we can.
Good morning and welcome to today's session on Startups in Agriculture, My Story. As you know, the NCID is organizing a weekly 1-hour Facebook Live and YouTube Live session on innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup for IGNOU students and faculty, covering different topics of common interest. The program aims at encouraging and motivating IGNOU students towards innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup. The 47th session of the series titled Startups in Agriculture, My Story is being organized today. To know more about what is in the story, we have with us Mr. Sanchit Agarwal. Mr. Sanchit has done his Bachelor of Technology from JP University of Information Technology and MS in Computer Science from International Institute of Information Technology. He has obtained his certificate in organic farming from IGNOU and is currently pursuing diploma in horticulture from IGNOU. He has been the co-founder of Ecom Farms. A data scientist turned agripreneur, Mr. Sanchit is a Social Innovation Immersion Program Fellow at the Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council, BIRAC. He is also a thesis supervisor at UpGrad. Mr. Sanchit has more than 10 years of experience in the subjects of data science, machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing, Internet of Things, and machine learning as a service products. He has worn different hats while setting up a data science team from scratch, mentoring young talent, and utilizing lean operational and management processes necessary for leading complex projects and teams in early stage startup environments. He is currently exploring challenges in pre-harvest, post-harvest, storage, and packaging of perishable crops. Mr. Sanchit has published several papers in journals of national and international repute. He also holds patents in method and system for extracting information related to product. I welcome you, Mr. Sanchit, to this program. We also have with us Dr. O.P. Sharma, Director NCID. Before I request Mr. Sanchit Agarwal to deliver his talk, I would request Dr. Sharma to say a few words, please. Dr. Sharma.
Thank you, Dr. Momita, and good morning to all of you, particularly Mr. Sanchit. We are really thankful to you that you have agreed to share your story of startup with our students. And I think in the area of agriculture, where we say that our country is dominated by agriculture, I think this will be very useful for the students who are residing in the villages and rural areas, and they can get good ideas what kind of opportunities are there in the field of agriculture where they can think of startup enterprises. So I hope your story will be quite motivating and informative for them. And it's good to know that you are basically a technocrat and converted into an entrepreneur. So this is a very good background that to be a successful entrepreneur, what I have seen, because many times we find that the students or the people are having good background, good knowledge of the field in which they want to work, but they are not having background of the technology, and particularly in your case, you are having good background of computer science. So that I think must have helped you in taking your ideas further. So I hope you will be talking about those all things, how your technical background has helped you in taking your ideas further and converting them into a proper startup. What kind of problems you faced, why you thought of this idea, and what are the opportunities for IGNOU students particularly. What kind of startups, what kind of problems they can take care if you are planning to do something for their own. So I hope you will be covering these all things. So thank you very much once again for sparing time and addressing our students. I welcome you. So and also thank all the participants who are here through Facebook Live, YouTube, and also through Google Meets. Thank you to all of you. So Dr. Momita, you can take it up further.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Now I invite Mr. Sanchit Agarwal to deliver his talk on the topic Startups in Agriculture, My Story. Dr. Agarwal, please.
Thank you, Momita and Momita ma'am, and thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I would like to share a small PPT. I'm just sharing my screen, and since you have already given a lot of introduction about me, I hope my presentation is visible. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would like to present what I'm currently working on. It is Thaina. It's a healthy naturally brand which we are creating for a D2C marketplace for farmers who are adopting GAP. I would be briefly talking about what I'm doing and what all areas there are opportunities where agriculture, since agriculture is something which is kind of a backbone of Indian ecosystem, then I would say like there is surely a lot of opportunities which are there. As already talked by Momita ma'am and sir, I basically currently working as a social innovation fellow. Now, what is this social innovation fellow? It's a program by BIRAC, which basically helps entrepreneurs in a very early stage to kind of immerse with the stakeholders in this agri value chain and come up with the challenges where possible technological solutions can be adopted. I'm currently situated in Pune, working with Venture Center, who is an implementation partner of Spursh, where I'm exploring market linkage challenges and technology adoption in agriculture. I also work as agri teacher with SSIST Bangalore, which is a unit of art of living where we actually go with and train farmers in adopting natural farming practices. Previously, I was working as a data scientist and I worked with almost 5 to 6 different startups at a very early stage. Some companies were working in oncology or outdoor media or automation of moderation challenges in C2C industry. So these are the few startups where I explore data science challenges and implemented data science solutions. I come up with computer science background where I did my master's in computer science, particularly with specialization in computer vision. And while pursuing this and while doing my um, you know, work with early stage startups, I always wonder that, what can be done in agriculture and how technology can be penetrated in agriculture. And that's where I started my journey in agriculture in 2018, when I got a chance of doing a certification in organic farming with IGNOU. I completed certification in organic farming in the under the mentorship of my professor SK Yadavji, and that gave me a whole new perspective of what is happening in agriculture. uh, Post that, I co-founded Ecom Farms, which was mostly into market linkage for fresh vegetables, where we aggregated farmers and helped them adopting good agriculture practices for natural farming and then link that with consumers. I also founded Ayata Intelligence, where we give services to IoT and AI for the people who are looking for AI services. That's about me. I'm father of a lovely daughter and currently working on these challenges in agriculture. So why I choose agriculture? So if we go back to the stories of farmers, particularly marginalized farmers, uh, generally they have a very low output cost. Like there are so many middlemen which are involved, because of which they are not able to realize the production cost, and at the same time they have a very high input cost. Why high input cost? Because they depend on external inputs like fertilizer, pesticides, and this dependency keeps on increasing year on year. So it's not like if I have utilize my fertilizers on one crop, I will not be dependent. I will be dependent again on the fertilizers. And they also depend on external seeds. They have to buy these seeds because mostly the seeds which they use are hybrid in nature and they can't be used again in the next crop. Other thing which I realized when I was working in agriculture is that they are not using symbiotic crop relationships while planning their field. They are not doing multi-cropping. They are not doing crop rotation. It's a monocropping system which is adopted majorly in a most part of the Indian agri ecosystem. And overall, due to this, they have a low price realization, and that's the loop where they are not able to sustain themselves. If you imagine this with any other business, you have your cost, like your raw materials are always cheaper as compared to your end product, and that is where a businessman is able to make money, because your final product is higher in cost realization, price realization, as compared to the your raw materials. While in agriculture, that's entirely a flip side, and that is where I realized, okay, this is something which is a huge gap, and that is the reason why marginalized farmers are not able to sustain themselves, and then why they are moving. A lot of movement is happening from a rural to urban. So there's a huge gap between urban and rural ecosystem, if you think, and this entire gap might lead to the situation where nobody want to do agriculture, right? And on the other side, if I see from the consumer perspective, today, if I see most of the things which we are having on our platter have been grown with some kind of poison. Now poison here is mostly chemical. It's a slow poison. Why? Because if you today see, these pesticide residues still remain in the crops, and that is what we eventually end up eating. The produces generally have a lot of fertilizers and pesticides which are being used, and it is a major contributor to different lifestyle diseases today. There's a study which is there which links how pesticide residue is impacting our body. Uh, so uh, we I was wondering, like, okay, what can be done? What can be done here, and how we can change this ecosystem? What I started with is, I started with the 1 acre land, and the learnings from the certification of organic farming course. We, with the help of one farmer who agreed, we bought a cow, and it was an indigenous cow, because indigenous cow is one of the pillar of natural farming, and we adopted that natural farming practices like extracting leaf extract, panchagavya. We are using my honeybees and better farm health and productivity systems, right? And we started doing that, adopting that in that 1 acre land, and we saw that uh, there was a better productivity in terms of conversion of the soil itself. Like now my soil has a better microbial organisms, right? And that was very helpful in terms of kind of creating an ecosystem which can help in sustaining particular products. So we started with that. We started creating natural fertilizer and biowetlands with cow-based farming in our farm, and we also adopting multi-cropping system where one crop will help a different crop, and the canopy helps a crop to basically kind of retain the moisture holding capacity of the soil, and also trapping certain pests. So the idea there was not to kill the pest, but rather than just kind of make a repellent for them. So we tried using these techniques which were taught in crop organic farming course with my farmers, and the result was that our entire input cost went down, and we were able to have a decent production. Our vision in this particular state is that we bring 100% naturally grown and traditionally processed unadulterated groceries to our consumers. And that is what I'm currently working towards, meeting a good market linkage of farmers who are doing natural farming with the consumers. Our vision is that to engage thousands of small and marginalized farmers, that farmers who are not able to adopt good agricultural practices, help them adopting these practices and bringing them their produce to the table of the consumers. That is what we are doing as a team. And what I'm doing currently, specifically unique in that, I'm trying with certain exotic species of wheat. Like black wheat is one of the species which basically has a high anthocyanins level and is known for antioxidant. It also helps in lifestyle disorders like diabetes and obesity. So I'm working with my farmers to help them grow black wheat, which is the indigenous seeds, so that they don't have to depend on external inputs and external seeds again and again every crop. And uh, that's something also has a high value from the realization point. Similarly, we are choosing black rice, which is again a very important crop with our farmers, and it also has a lot of I would say healthy things, like it improves bone health. It is a natural detoxifier, and it is easy in terms of kind of, I would say, resistant to certain things where you don't have to depend on chemical fertilizers again. uh, our entire target approach of reaching the consumers, because once you build this, the very important part is how you build a market. So we are parallelly working on creating a market where we specifically focus in one region, which is Delhi NCR, and I'm specifically focusing in Noida, Greater Noida, because my farmers are from Dadri, and this also reduces my operational cost. So this is what we are doing in terms of creating a market for our consumers, and we basically acquire consumers based on experiential marketing. So we are going to societies, we are reaching there, and we are kind of having stalls there where consumers from the societies come over the stalls and they see what we are growing, and if they like it, they do purchase it. So it overall reduces our marketing cost as well, and that gives us a wider reach and a more focused reach in one society. So if I hire more people in one society, that will actually reduce my operational cost. So this is what we are doing. These are the few achievements we have got so far. We have been a part of a lot of different escalators who have helped us further from the business side. I come from a technological background, so it was important for me to have a business understanding. And these incubators and actuators have helped in a kind of fine tuning those aspects. So we were a part of AIC IIIT Hyderabad. We are part of Nexus. We are part of TIE Pune nurture programs. We were part of Manage, which is a Center for Innovation in Entrepreneurship, and that has helped us in further fine tuning the idea, making more focused approach on what we can do with the farmers and how we can bring our product to the market. To, as I said, like in the beginning, I'm currently working as a Spush fellow, where the idea is that we go and do more immersions with these farmers. So it started in last like around May 2020, where we got a chance. Five of fellows are there from different background, and we are here in Pune and going to different regions. As of now, we have started immersing in Maharashtra, because Maharashtra is one of the region where there is a lot of agriculture losses which happens. And at the same time, uh, if you talk about, there are more farmer societal rates as compared to the other states. We, as of now, like the first immersion which we did it at Latur, which is one of the uh, you know village with a very high rate of farmer society, because of many reasons. When we went there, we realized that okay, what kind of challenges they have, what kind of ground things happening at that, and that is helping us to capture the overall eco landscape of agriculture in India. What is happening with different stakeholders? We went to government warehouses, we went to small scale pulse, I would say. Processing units. We went to NGOs. We talked to different farmers there to basically gather information at what kind of challenges they have, what kind of areas are there where they are not able to, because of which they have a high losses in their entire, agriculture. This When they sow something and how they take it to the market. As of now, we have done 4 different immersions. We did one immersion at Falton, which is NIASM, where they have a abortic stress management. What uh, uh, kind of management techniques are developed in terms of soybean and other crops. We also went to understand how honeybees can help in better productivity. What kind of supports are given by KVK. We also are talking, went and get a chance to visit Gandhi farm, which is one of the, I would say, natural farming farms in Faltan, where the Babulal Gandhi is doing almost 100 acre of land, and it's an agroforest model which he has developed over the last 40 years without any kind of chemical inputs, and he is profitable. And so the idea is to understand what is happening entirely by different stakeholders, by different perspective, uh, be it academic perspective, be it extension perspective, be it kind of independent farmer perspective. Uh, we also tried and went to understand what is happening in the cattle research, like, because again cattle is a very important part of agriculture, and what kind of improvements or this kind of development is happening at that stage, how uh, what kind of challenges are there in that area. And recently we went to Nasik, where we went to understand what is happening in the different processing units. So we went to different processing units and like Sula vineyards, where we understand what is the entire value chain of grapes, how the grapes in being procured and how it is being converted to winery. We also went to Sayadri farm, where they are talking about uh, how Sahadri Farm having a cooperative model, or I would say a farming model, and they are procuring from farmers and then finally doing processing at their unit. And similarly, what kind of challenges are there with the onion farmers when onion is being cultivated? They have to store onion for the longer period of around 4 to 5 months. Now, what happens in onion storage? Why, if you have read the newspaper in recent news, it was that almost 40% of onion gets wasted after post harvest. So what are the challenges in post harvest? Why that is happening? And what kind of technological gaps are there which we can adopt in order to mitigate those? So in all, as a part of social innovation, we are going to different places and understanding these value chains, and probably then come up with some technological input in the area which has a higher requirement. I would also now move to uh, uh, a next section where I will be talking about why there is a need of startup, and as a part of IGNOU alumnus, why as after graduating you should think of starting a startup. Now, what is a startup? Uh, so startup is basically a process of setting your ideas into motion. Sometimes what happens is we go to a place, we observe certain challenges and we think about our idea, so we can solve it with my strength. But we never go and implement that idea. We never go into action state. It is always in our mind. It is always in our this idea stage, and it might happen in other fields. People from maybe doing language, they might have seen that, okay, there are language challenges with a lot of early stage learners. Now, can something can be done there? If you talk about technology, there was a huge gap in technical education being provided to the rural states. Can that be done something there? So you might be having a lot of ideas, but the idea remains idea until it is not set to a motion. It is not, you don't react or work on that idea. And if you have a good idea, you can actually think of starting something. But why you should start? Because it is always, if you start something, it will somewhere, some it will going to help in society. It will also can help you to have an independent and self-reliant system where you can actually contribute to the society. Ultimately, it is also a process of making money. It can help you in while solving a social problem, while solving a challenge, you can actually make good money, right? So it's always a good thing to create business rather from your ideas and from things which you care about. And what sometimes it happens, we think, okay, what is the right time to start up, right? Should I go and start once I'm done with my graduation? Should I start once I have taken a job and have some experience and then start my venture? Or should I have a doctorate and then start a startup? Or should I have a 10 to 15 years of experience and then start a startup? To my experience, there is no as such point on which you can say, okay, this is the right time for startup. Because when you start, there are always things which you have not encountered, and you will encounter those things while working on that idea, while exploring that idea. There will be challenges day in and day out, and you will be working on those challenges. So the right time of startup is when you think that your idea is there and you can, that idea is something which can actually change the way that ecosystem works, right? If it's a disruptive idea and you think that that idea can change, you should start. And it's not like just, if you are doing something, leave that aside and uh, start that. You can start validating it. You can say, okay, this is one idea which is popping in my mind after observation, after being in that field, but is it worth working for next 10 years? So validate that. And uh, you know uh, there is no such time of this is the right time to start. It's the time when you actually think of making your idea into action. And I think uh, again, this poster says most about, when you are freshly out of college. I think that is one of the best time, because you have acquired a knowledge in a particular field, and now it's time to implement your strength in something which is not solved yet. So it's like sometimes, fresh graduates thinks that, okay, you should go for experience and then come back later and start a startup. That is also right, but I think even if you start very early, it will not going to kind of hurt you later. It will just give you more experience. And sometimes we believe that we don't have experience. In that case, you can actually reach to mentors who have already started in their life, and they can help you with your startup journey. And you can always access to the alumnus of your institution. They will be an alumnus who have started something and who have been working on certain ideas, who can help you to judge whether the idea which you are talking about is something should go about or not. And you have a lot of resources at your hand when you are in college, so you can actually go to the libraries to validate what is happening in that field. You can actually take assistance and guidance from your professors, from your mentors. So that's the right time to exploit the resources, to validate the idea, that whether the business can come out of it or not. And at that time in college, you also have a lot of control in law, like you don't have a lot of dependencies at that age. So again, you can think about risking yourself at that time. I'm talking about when you're fresh graduate. So you don't have a lot of dependencies at that time. Later in time, you might have a lot of dependencies, where it will be more riskier to take any such kind of decision. So, but at that time, when you're fresh graduate, you can actually take a decision of starting something and risking yourself, because not much will be hampered at that time. So, and again, if you start and if you make a lot of mistakes, that will always give you a lot of learning. uh, there's always a room of a lot of mistakes at that time. You can try something. If that fails, you can try something else again. If that fails, you can try something else, right? But later at some point of time, your risk taking or your mistake taking aptitude might get, it might reduced. So again, that was one of the best time where you can go for it. Again, at the same time, if you talk about loss and gains. Like sometimes it happens that we say, okay, no, going for a job is much better as compared to starting something else, because you might not be earning, you not might be having a good I would say lifestyle in terms of a very luxurious life at that time, but that is not required at that time. You can still take a chance of going into the working on your idea and see whether that changes something or not, because there is a lot to gain if that idea works, right? And as compared to if you go to a job or do a kind of just for making a comfortable life. So I think moving out of your comfort zone and thinking more about less about what is the immediate gain is something which can help you in future. And at the end, if you still fail, right, you have a graduate degree, you can still get a job at a later point of time. Even if you tried and you fail, you can still go to a job, and that experience really counts, because you have tried something from scratch where you don't know what are the resources. You tried building resources, you tried building, validating your idea, and still if you fail, that's something which it's countable. It's not something which is it's something that people will deny. No, you did something, and that's the reason. That's not, if you fail, that's not a reason that to say that you will not get a job. You can get a job at a later point of time even if you fail. And then the question comes, how shall I start? I have an idea. I'm motivated enough to work on that idea, but how should I start? What should I take in mind? What are the things which I should have before I actually go down and work on or implement that idea? So the thing is that you should have a vision around your idea. What exactly your vision is? Why you are solving that idea? Is that idea is influenced by a temporary gain, or is that idea is actually has a potential for solving a bigger challenge? And if that is that, then you can actually do research on that, create a essentially an entire path of how you will be solving that problem. What are the uh, I would say different components which are required to solve a bigger problem, right? You do a lot of research, you do a primary research, you do a secondary research, you talk to a lot of stakeholders. As I showed an example, when we were doing immersion, we are doing immersion from different stakeholders' perspective. We are not just restricting ourselves to farmers. We are not just restricting ourselves to food processing units or big organizations. We are kind of open to talk to different people in the entire agriculture ecosystem, different stakeholders, be it academia, be it processing units, be it packaging units, be it farmers, be it FPOs, be it the export houses, to understand, okay, what is actually happening. At the same time, we do a lot of secondary research to validate what we have learned from our primary research, what we have, what kind of interaction, what kind of things which these stakeholders told us, whether they are actually having a correlation with what is there in the research, what is there. You will find a lot of research around your idea. So try to validate that, and then try to have a mentor who can guide you whether you are on the right correlation track or not, whether you are able to uh, you know narrow down the problem so that you can actually start. Now when you start, obviously you might be having some strength, you might be good in technology, you might be good in marketing, you might be good in operations, you might be good in finance. So for a particular idea to implement, you require a team, you require a multifunctional team where different people come up with different perspectives. So having a team is something which is very important when you start implementing the idea, and the team should have uh, you know complementary skills. It should not be like, ye mera best friend hai, so I should start with him. No, that will not work out, because though it's a best friend, it might not have the complementary skills to execute a particular idea. So you have to be very critical about who and whom you want to work with, and what are the different things which you are bringing in the team, like what are the different skill set which each of the team member is bringing to solve that problem. Is that skill set is actually required at this point of time to solve that problem? Sometimes it happens that okay, I don't have a team, how should I start, right? No, if even you don't have a team, you can do a secondary research, you can do validate your problem, and you can make a problem so convincing to somebody that he says, yeah, there is a gap in this problem, will be worth working on, right? So if you have that convincing, if you are that resourceful, and if you have an idea which can be taken into a good implementation stage, then I don't think that team, having not a team, is a challenge. You can get people on board with your mission, who can help achieving your the larger vision you have. And if you are able to solve these three things for your idea, I think it's a good starting point. You can plan to start uh, your journey of startup. Now I would like to talk about the different stages of your development phases. You had an ideation, you started conceptualizing it, and you also now have a team members who can work with you. Next come, okay, you know what kind of commitment you come with, right? It is, if early failures kind of triggers something that okay, I don't want to continue, then that's not a high level of commitment. You require a very high level of commitment, because there will be instant failures, there will be a lot of ups and downs. And your focus should be that okay, once I have conceptualized how I can bring a minimal viable product. So for in our case, when I started, I don't I was not from an agriculture background. My entire graduation was in technology. And I was if I talk about, almost for 10 years I was working as a data scientist, and I was helping those startups. The only thing which helped me was I was in a startup ecosystem, which helped me build certain perspective of how a startup runs. This gave me enough confidence that okay, even if I'm not from agriculture background, what I have to do, what kind of things I need to pursue, and that is where I pursued organic certification, and that gave me a base, to build things on. Then I went to talk to different farmers. One farmer, said, okay, he can do a trial with me, and we started doing it. I started with the vegetable in my mind. At that time, I was doing spinach and other things, but uh, during the journey, I realized, okay, perishable is something which I'm not fit at the current point, and that's where I shifted to, things like black with black rice. And I started validating. I was not waiting that I should have a website. Still today we don't have a website because we are at a very early stage. So I didn't wait it for that. Directly went to the consumers, say okay, would you like to have this? Try this out. Tell us the feedback, and that's how your minimal viable product starts. So if you are able to do that, if you are able to convince your suppliers, your stakeholders in both the supplier side and the consumer side, you can build that MVP. Now the question comes, where the money comes from. So initially you can take help from your parents, you can take help from your friends. If you are coming with the experience, you might be having some savings. So again, if you are somebody who is thinking of having a startup at a later point of time, so it is very important to save, so that you can invest in your idea later. So with all these three things, if you are able to do an MVP, I think then there is no turning back. Then you keep on improving your idea, you keep on finding your product market fit. You keep on now. When I started with I started with vegetable initially with my venture Ecom Farm, but then I realized okay, no, vegetable is not something which can be sustainable in a long point of time. It requires a lot of capital at the first. So I think of non-perishable, because non-perishable was much easy to handle as compared to perishable. It is still difficult, but it was easier than vegetable. So now the idea was okay, whom to sell black wheat, because black wheat is something nobody here in India consume. We consume normal wheat, right? And that too in the northern states. So what should be my target consumer? If I say okay, all of my people who are eating wheat is my consumer, no, they are not my consumer, because uh, they are it is very difficult to change a behavior. So you need to identify who can be your early adopters, who can be your early target audience. where we decided that okay, people having lifestyle diseases might be interested in that, and that is what how we are marketing ourselves. So you need to think that okay, once you have an ability, once you have established, validated your idea, how you can talk about and find product market fit in your product, whatever idea, whatever product you are building, how you can find a product market fit. If you remember that when Gmail was launched, they used to give Gmail access to very few people, right? Similarly, if you talk about a lot of technology disruption which are happening, there are beta releases which happen where very few people have that access to that particular platform. So again, you need to find that what is your product market fit, and based on that, you need to further improve your idea. And finally, it's a scale stage where you are now establishing and expanding your startup idea. So in all, these are few different stages, and uh, I would say again, it's something we have is that we should have these goals in mind. It's not the goal; it's the journey which matters. If you are committed towards creating a change, then it doesn't matter whether you have a up or a down in that journey. You will still continue working towards what you want, towards your vision. And it's a pictorial which talks about a roadmap of uh, you know having a prototype, then showing that prototype to some 100 people, and then launching it, improvising it, then iterating on the prototype, and then finally growing your product. And just it's like you need to keep working. You can't just say that okay, I'm not able to get what I intend to do and I'm stopping. No, you need to go back, see on your drawing board that where you have went wrong. What are the components which are failing because of which the intended results is something which you are not getting, and you need to think right of that if something is failing, it is not because it's not accepted. It might be some other reason might be there might be some component which you have not thought about. So instead of leaving, think about that and continue working towards it. And these are certain books for the people who are interested in starting something. You can read these books. These are Zero to Win is one of the very good book for people who want to build some technological products. Then the Lean Startups talks about how you can start lean with low investments at the same time and try to validate your idea. The Mom Test is again a very good book which talks about how you can validate your idea with no with without any investment. And then Radical Candor, it's again talks about how you can be be the best of yourself. So these are few books. There are many more books. This is just to start with, and that's it. I would say take a steps towards a healthy and eco-friendly lifestyle. Try to contribute to agriculture, because agriculture is something which is key to our economy, which is the base of our economy. And at that point, I would like to end. If there are any questions, if there are anything which you want to ask, I'm happy to answer that. So, Dr. Momita, I think that's.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchit, for that wonderful talk today. And I'm sure that our listeners and our faculty members who are listening, they will be highly motivated from what you just said. We have here with us regional directors and faculty members of IGNOU. I would request them that if they have any comments or observations or suggestions, they may like to come forward with that. If they have any questions, kindly ask your questions. So as they are getting ready with their questions, I have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Sanchit.
Yeah.
You have established quite a few companies in your career. And so what happened to them?
Okay. So basically, my very first company was in my graduation days. It was a proprietorship firm. At that time, we used to develop for website. I would say, in 2010, nobody was very keen on building websites, and we started that. And it was just I was always curious to build something and see how it is working. So my previous startups, they didn't do that well, I would say. As I said, like, when I started Ecom Farms, the vision was we were solving for vegetables. The idea was behind bringing affordable vegetables, chemical-free vegetables, I would say pesticide-free vegetables to the doorstep. When I started, it was 2018 and 2019, COVID hit. Right, so there were certain operational challenges in vegetables, which due to the perishability, I had to stop it. So uh, with IIT Intelligence, I was into AI and IoT services. Still there, but my more focus is in agriculture. So I'm not able to give much time to that. So yeah, I would say like they are in dormant state as of now. More I'm focusing more on non-perishables, as well as I'm working as a social innovation. So I also, like, as I said, like, there was a temporary failure, I would say, in terms of scaling the startup. So I'm now going back one step and looking, okay, what are the different stakeholders? This program of social innovation is giving me much more deeper, learnings in terms of what is happening in agricultural space, how different stakeholders are working, and I would say probably this will give me idea on improving these ventures further.
I mean, founding so many companies is not an ordinary feat. So hats off to you for that. And so this brings me to the next question. Now that you're so passionate about organic farming, and you have mentioned a few things that caught my attention, and I'm sure the others who are listening, they would be also interested to know. And that is the use of Panchagavya.
Mhm.
So, would you like to elaborate on that and what it is and how it is useful and any special type of ingredient that is recommended and what are the yields that you expect after using Panchagavya versus before
So
using it?
yeah, so ma'am, it's not just Panchagavya. Basically, it's a lot of things which we do. So basically, the idea is, let's say if somebody is totally into chemical farming, right? Now, how do you ask that farmer to adopt natural farming, right? Obviously, let's say a farmer is doing 5 acre of farming, right? And I ask him, okay, you don't do 5 acre farming and do completely natural farming. That's not a good practice because there was a drastic decrease in the yield in the very few years, first years, right? So if we do that, obviously he will not going to he might do that for one crop, but he will not continue doing it, right? So the idea to that is that, okay, you ask him basically to allocate maybe 1 acre of land for that kind of practices and keep what you are doing for the rest of your land, right? Now, it's not just Panchagavya, it's the series of entire things, right? What you need to do. What we recommend to our farmers is obviously having an indigenous cow is the must. So we don't recommend using, cow dung of, I would say, Jersey cows or any other, thing, but we ask them to have an indigenous cow and use that to prepare different things like jiva Dhanjiva made, Panchgavya. Panchgavya is basically 5 things out of cow dung and curd and ghee and all, right? So and then we have a systematic application on the soil. So there is a complete schedule which is there, where we also recommend them that these are the kind of crops which it should grow. Specifically, if you are doing vegetable farming, these are the different layouts which you should grow, and this is the spraying schedule. So there are certain learnings which is being kind of taken from a lot of different literature, and that's how it is being done. So it's not just the application of Panchagavya, not just here, it's a combination of different things. I
Yeah,
hope I answered
what
your question.
yes, yes, you did. What I was asking was that have you noticed any difference in yield of crops after using
Yeah,
Panchagavya?
that is
Okay.
there. That is, see, if you talk about difference in terms of chemical farming versus natural farming, obviously difference is there. The produce is less low in terms of labor intensive thing. Also, natural farming is more labor intensive because if there is a weed in the field, I can just spray weedicide. While in this natural farming, we actually, there's a lot of tilling and everything happens manually. So it's more laborious in nature. But the good part is that over the period when you do it, your ecosystem becomes very healthy. Which, like, as of now, it's not been 3-4 years, so I can't compare those results. But as per the literature, in third or fourth year of your practice, the kind of yields are equivalent. But
Yeah, that is
practically,
wonderful to
I
know.
have not compared.
That's very interesting actually. And the other thing that you mentioned was honeybees that you're thinking of rearing or using. So any specific trait or any specific genetic makeup of those honeybees that you would like to recommend?
No, I think like one of the most common, I'm forgetting the name of that. Uh, it's a Indian this thing. We are using the most common one as of now. Which Apis, the common one, genus Apis is the one, right? So we are using that as per for our rearing. The only purpose for that is they are the natural soldiers and for pollination. So just to have an increased productivity, we are trying. So in our this farm, we have around 4 or 5 boxes. So we have taken it from the person who is already rearing honeybees. We are not separately doing any rearing, and we have kept there so that the natural pollination happens in the farm.
Okay, that sounds great actually. Dr. Sharma, would you like to give your suggestions, comments, questions, anything?
Yes, yes. Sanchit, it's a very good initiative that you have been taking, and good thing is that one after another you have been trying, experimenting on different companies, different fields, and also doing value additions. That's a very good thing. One very important question that maybe from most of the students of IGNOU and others also, like when you initially thought of going for a startup, converting your idea into a startup, how did you manage your funds? Did you think about the funds or what kind of problem you faced and how you managed that funding? Or you that's just I want to ask you from the
Yeah.
student's point of view.
Thank you, doctor. So I also tried covering that funding part. So basically, when I started, obviously, as I said, like I was working with startups, so I had a good pool of money of my savings. So one thing is obviously, if you're planning to start, you should start saving also. And generally, what we do is we invest that money into different things. But I would say like try to use that. Like if you don't ingest your own money, you will never feel a pain of working on an idea. Because generally, what happens is we think like okay, we idea start करते हैं we have investors and they will fund us. And वो idea fail भी हो जाएगा तो कुछ नहीं क्योंकि investor का पैसा है हमारा तो पैसा नहीं है, right? But generally that's not the case, right? Even if somebody will going to invest in you, they will invest in you, right? And idea is the secondary part. So you need to be very frugal about your spending and the entire thing. When I started, I actually thought of kind of had a budget of maybe if I go 2 years of break even thing, and this is the kind of budget I require, and these are the different expenses. Obviously you can go here and there, obviously, because when you actually go to the field you see okay there are a lot of things which you have not thought about. But again, doing a secondary research there and a primary research there will help you budgeting your things. So have a budget, try to have a corpus. When I went there, I never went full time because I was also consulting my AI skill set. So that's helped me having my bread and butter. And basically whatever savings I had, I tried to systematically pool, kind of implement that in the idea. Now there's third part to it. I also keep on applying to various grants. So I have not so far kind of reached to any kind of investors. I tried reaching to them, but at this stage of our journey, I believe that we are quite very early to any investor. So we do keep on going for grants. So this first fellowship is again one of the grant which I got from BRAC. So again, this help you. So there are a lot of different grants. As I mentioned, that Manage AI is there. There you have Niti Aayog grants are there. Then you have EIR grant, entrepreneur in residence. So if somebody want to start, right, and they are thinking of having sustainable, and they don't. So, this EIR is a very good grant for students who have just graduated and they don't have a savings or corpus and they don't have any previous savings, so they can go with EIR. EIR is like in every college, most of the college, it's a grant by DST, Department of Science and Technology, for technological idea, for any service ideas. You present your idea to these EIR committee, and if you get through, you will get a 30,000 stipend for at least 12 months. That is more than enough to validate your idea. Right. Once you validate your idea, you should think of also how you can have access to consumer money. If you're in agriculture, it is something which is easy, because if you are making commodity product, you can sell to consumer and that will give you cash flow, right? So you can reach out to different grants. There are a lot of grants today. The startup ecosystem in India is quite aggressive, and every day you will see a lot of challenges happening. Startup India ka website is there. You can see a lot of challenges there. If you have an idea, just put it on paper and apply, right? If you get through, that's a golden opportunity for you. So if you were asking like how I was able to start those startups, so Ayata Intelligence, I was working on glasses for visually challenged. I got a grant from IIT Bombay to make a product for that. Right. So we built it, and similarly, as of now, today we have a grant
that helped you in managing the things.
Yes.
But we come across many students who are having very brilliant ideas. Good ideas, you can see that they can be very good business startups. And what they are looking for, that when we get some grant, support, funding, only then they will work upon that further. So this kind of mentality many of these students are having. They would like to move further only when they get some funding from some agency. So in this context, what you would like to suggest to them?
Yeah, so I think like even that's not the right thing for me. I didn't thought of having a grant. I started, and then in the journey I also kept on applying grants. So it's not like I'm not getting a grant is stopping me. So see, if you want to do something, you will arrange resources, right?
So that is basically
it's just an excuse you give to yourself that okay, मेरे पास ये नहीं है. That's not a right mindset. मेरे पास कोई चीज नहीं होना.
Start with your own resources first.
You see, you require money for what? You require money for paying salaries. You require money for setup, initial things. If that's something you are working on, those processing units or something. You require money for operational expenses, right? Rent and other thing. So if you want to start, you don't require a huge office space like Microsoft or VSS. You don't require that kind of office, right? You can start, you have a laptop, you can start researching, right? If you want resources, you have a lot of interns, juniors, first year, second year guys, right? You ask them to collaborate with them. If they also like the idea, they will surely collaborate with you. So it's very easy to start a startup at a very early point, because that doesn't require that kind of money. So that should not be an excuse that पैसा नहीं है इसलिए मैं start नहीं कर पा रहा. I believe that.
So do we have any other comments or queries from our listeners here? I have one question, and we have experienced it in our interactions with our students. There is a sense of inhibition about sharing their ideas with their team members and also incubators. Before even going to the incubators, they are asking, what if the idea gets stolen or anything? So what is your take on that?
I think I have heard a lot of time that, what if my idea is stolen? I think, see, if you are having an idea, don't think that you are the only person who have that idea. There might be many people who already have that idea. There might be many people in the journey who have also implemented that idea. There might be many people who are already earning through that idea, right? So I would say, rather than that, think about, okay, there might be gap in your idea. and an incubation and a mentor can help you narrow down or help you improvising that idea, right? So idea, again, as I said, like idea into action. If you don't bring that idea into action, you are just keeping your idea with yourself. Nothing going to happen. When there are different stakeholders, complementary skills coming in, you will actually see, okay, your idea has a gap. you, you can't climb a, I would say, like it's like not sharing things, so you have to be like open to things, right? It's not. And even if somebody, let's say that, okay, somebody is stealing your idea, I think you should be an idea generator. Even if somebody stole the idea, then that should not be the case of stopping you, right? So,
Yes, in fact, it is
Only
essentially the path of taking risks. So you have to take risks in that.
in
there
addition to
has to be some
taking
trust.
risk,
There
I
has to be
think
some
one
trust.
thing is very important. The idea, the implementation strategy that you have in your mind, other person cannot think on those lines.
Yeah,
So
yeah. The kind of
maybe
the kind of energy, yeah, the kind of energy you will bring to that idea, I would say it will be difficult for some other person to bring that energy.
True, they have to understand that essentially you are the creator. So person who creates that idea is the person knows how to execute it, how to implement it, as Anita ji has responded here. Uh, yes, indeed, you only know how it will work. So I hope our students who are listening would understand this point.
And,
डरना नहीं है.
I want to add here. I want to add here. Even if you have that doubt कि यार नहीं मेरा idea तो कोई चुरा लेगा, so there are procedure for that. You sign an NDA. Generally, most of the incubators do sign an NDA. You file a provisional patent for that. आप अपने idea के लिए provisional patent डाल के रख दो, and you can safeguard. So you can have a patent at idea stage, right? You file a provisional patent and then go for the incubator, right? And even if in later point somebody does that, then you have right to claim that. So I don't think so that there should be any inhibition, because that stops learning. Like if you have an inhibition, it stops. We are doing Blackweed, and there are many challenges there, which are there in this thing, right? If I go and say no, ये Blackweed तो कोई करेंगे किसको पता ही नहीं, मैं किसी को बोलूंगा तो वो भी कर लेगा. ठीक है, if he is also doing Blackweed, that's actually good, right? You will find a competitor in your space where you can improve your product, right? So, I believe that way, and I think innovation should not be there.
Do we have any other questions or queries from our listeners here? So just it is wonderful interacting with you, Mr. Sanchit, and maybe one last question, if there are no other questions. A last question from me. What does innovation mean to you?
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I would say, innovation is something where you are able to implement your product, and it is able to change the life cycle of the stakeholders for which that innovation is. So I would try to link that with what Edison did with bulb, right? So that bulb is the invention, right? So there's a difference between invention and innovation, right? You have an invention, but if it is that invention is staying in at the backyard, that's not innovation, right? Innovation is there only when it is being implemented and stakeholders are able to realize value out of your invention. So that's a loop. That's 2 cents on innovation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjit. Dr. Sharma, if there is no other question, we can end this session today.
yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you. So I would like to thank our expert today, Mr. Sanchit Agarwal, for that interesting session and for sparing his valuable time to give this inspiring talk. Thank you. I thank all the directors and heads, regional directors, faculty members, and academics of IGNOU for attending today's session. I thank Mr. Rajesh Sharma, head of the Public Information Unit, for providing NCID with the Facebook Live platform and ensuring the smooth conduct of this program with utmost dedication. I thank Dr. O.P. Sharma, Director NCID, and my colleagues. I thank Mr. Pawan Kumar and Mr. Praveen Chauhan for extending their assistance in the smooth conduct of this program. This brings us to the end of today's session. Hope to see you in the next week. Till then, namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.